And I was speaking to a man he had with a false claim, Department of Children and Family Services against him. How people weaponize this truly needs to stop. False claim against a spouse for the purposes of getting that person removed completely from your child's world. Welcome back now to Gallagher's Grip. This is Daniel Gallagher, your host here at the Gallagher Stream Studio on the south side of Chicago, where I am going to be speaking about two items that absolutely need to be discussed, ladies and gentlemen. And let me start the story, if you will. Yesterday, I was actually in Iowa. And I was speaking to a man in Iowa about his particular situation that he had with a false claim about a DCFS, Department of Children and Family Services against him. Okay, so with this Gallagher's Grip Daily Grip here, I am going to be discussing how people weaponize the use of certain items within a system, and I think this truly needs to stop, because after I heard what this man had to say, I was just mind blown here in this particular situation. Let's go over this for real. Using DCFS to make a false claim against a spouse for the purposes of starting an investigation, for the purposes of getting that person removed completely from your child's world, to hurt and harm and jab and stab, all done by design, by spite. Now listen, let me be very, very clear with you here and now. I have a incredible amount of respect for DCFS. I have an incredible amount of respect for any agency that is deemed the responsibility to take care and make sure that the youth of America is actually being protected. My hat is off to them at the highest of levels that exist here, and I applaud them across the board. I have heard horror stories after horror stories, and let's be clear, there are absolutely instances where the state needs to inject themselves to remove a child from a very dangerous scenario. And the stories I've heard would bring tears to your eyes, let alone the stories that the ladies at the DCFS office, or whatever that office, stands for in each and every other state across the country. It is a very sad, serious thing. However, okay, do you realize that there are so many instances where people use a DCFS complaint as a way to hurt the spouse that they are with? Do you realize that anybody can make a phone call to a DCFS office or a child protective agency across the country as an anonymous person, for all the right reasons? Anybody can make a phone call and say, hey, you know what? I see some real problems going on at ABC address 123, and I think you guys need to investigate it. Anybody can make a phone call and file a claim, open up an investigation, and the hat's off, ladies and gentlemen. The hat is off, and there you go. This man that I'm referencing, and I will not state his name, but this man's situation is one where he explained to me in detail that he was his ex-spouse made a phone call and a false claim that he was abusing his daughter for many, many years. And that claim was taken, obviously, extremely serious, wherein the daughter was stripped away from him, and a full investigation took place at the school, friends, family, the whole 9 yards. Just an utter atomic bomb in this man's life. And he was going on to say that he went through 4 years. 4 years He went through 4 years, ladies and gentlemen, of not being able to see his daughter. 4 years. I mean, come on, 4 years. 360. That's 1,456 days. 1,456 days. Ultimately created by a fake and false, phony accusation that he was doing something inappropriate with his daughter. He had to fight to get her back. 4 years going through hell, going through investigations, going through all kinds of problems with the state to ensure that he can get his daughter back. He had to fight day in and day out. And I hear stories like this all the time. I hear stories like this every single time this topic comes up, which makes me sick to my stomach. This particular man fought like hell to get his daughter back after 4 years, and guess what? He got her back. And guess what the state did? Removed the parental rights from her, the ex. Okay, so wait a minute. Let me back up here. So anybody can make a false claim. Anybody can pick up the phone right here. Pick up the phone and make a false claim, even if you're pissed off at somebody. Man, I'll tell you what. I'm really pissed off at that girl. I'm really pissed off at that guy. I'm gonna go ahead and really screw with him. I'm gonna go ahead and make a claim that he's abusing a child, or I don't want him to see our kids when we're going through the divorce. So I'm just gonna throw that. I'm just gonna slip that into the file and see where that goes. That's what happens, folks. Whether you like to hear it or not, that is what happens. It's a weaponization of a system. And I'm not just referencing DCFS. I'm referencing, let me see here. The last major story I heard was when a female wants a man out of a house. Do you know what she has to do? It's very simple. It is very, very simple. She simply needs to pick up the phone, call the police, and say, my husband, my boyfriend, my spouse threw a candle at me, threw a phone at me, slapped me on the back, hurt me, hit me, pulled my hair, whatever the excuse is, by design, just to get the sheriff to come over to your house. And do you want to know who he's going to arrest? Do you want to know who's going to be leaving that house? Do you want to know by default who is the person that actually has to leave that dwelling? I got some news for you, ladies and gentlemen. It's always the man. It is always the man who actually has to leave the house. Now, doesn't that piss you off just a little bit? You know what? Let's go through this. Hey, listen, Sheriff, my husband's hitting me right now, threw a candle at me, and he called me some names, and I'm very scared. Oh, don't forget those words. Don't forget those words. I'm very scared and afraid for my life. Here's a guy who's working his butt off, and you're going to strategize and simply have the courage to make that phone call to get him out of the house. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? He gets out of the house. He has a restraining order, because that's usually what comes thereafter, something of that level of craziness. And then now he doesn't get to see his kids at all until he goes to an emergency hearing. What is going on with human beings in today's day and age? I know so many people that have been in this scenario and have had this happen to them on the DCFS side, on the let's call it the fake phony phone call to the police that you're actually getting abused and hurt and harmed just strategically to get your man, your boyfriend, your husband, or that guy out of your house. See you later, baby. The cop comes over. Sir, oh God, sir, he hit me. It's fake. It's phony. It's called acting, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I know that there are instances where it's real. Don't misunderstand me. I'm referencing the people who are fake and phony, who make those fake, phony phone calls strategically to change the game. He hurt me. He threw a candle at me. He slapped me across the face. Or how about the girls that actually hurt themselves on purpose, or slap themselves on purpose, or scratch themselves on purpose? How is a police officer going to know? You know, I get really really emotional about this because I have heard so many stories in regards to this particular topic. It's like a nuclear bomb going off. It's unbelievable. The stories that I hear in reference to these two particular topics that exist on a daily basis out there. Could you imagine having the dark side of your heart? Okay. Could you imagine being able to have the courage to make a phone call and actually file a fake DCFS report against somebody who you know really wasn't doing anything wrong, just to open up a can of Pandora's box to put that person through hell? Could you imagine what type of individual that person has to be in here? Evil person. And I mean, holy cow. I was reading that out of all of the nationwide phone calls, okay, all the nationwide cases, okay, almost 80% of them are unfounded, unsubstantiated findings and or proven false. From the DCFS side, from the Department of Children and Family Services, or whatever that translates to other states. Here in Illinois, that's what it's referred to. And you are referencing, generally speaking, via ChatGPT, for the record, almost 80% of these actual cases are deemed to be unfound, unsubstantiated findings. Now, think about that for a second. That's insanity. Now, I'm not saying all those are done by people who are being spiteful. I am not at all saying that. And I'm certainly going to re-reference the fact that I respect the agency, and it absolutely has to be a reality with people who are truly abusing the youth of this great country. But for those who actually use this as a weapon to hurt and harm and open up an unnecessary can of worms against your boyfriend, your husband, your spouse, just to get him or put him through hell, I say that if proven unfound, you go to jail. And I think it should be a minimum sentence of 5 years. I do. And for those of you who have never had that actually happen, I could only imagine the level of fear and the level of chaos that your mind and your heart and your body go through, thinking, oh my God, am I ever going to see my children again? I can't believe that this person would actually do this. And this particular guy told me that when he was in the office of the DCFS agent, she was looking at him like he was the devil. Did you do this on such and such date? Did you do that on such and such date? Now, I respect and appreciate the level of investigations that have to take place on a phone call, but isn't it strange and scary? I guess is the right word. Isn't it scary how a simple phone call can open up such a massive can of worms and change and alter someone's life to the point where, in this particular case, he wasn't able to see his kids for 4 years. Now, he showed me the paperwork, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just referencing this particular scenario. It was true. It was unbelievable. It was disgusting. And as I'm looking down at his lovely daughter, I mean, I have never seen a daughter so happy to be with her dad ever in my life, as she got an amazing report at school. And you know what? Dad went to go get her an ice cream cone. But you are spiteful. You want to hurt and harm, and you want to jab, and you want to do whatever you can do to make sure that that guy goes down. I don't love him anymore. I don't care for him anymore. Nothing matters to me at this point but doing whatever I have to do whatever's necessary to hurt and harm the image, the reputation, all of the above. Now, that's dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I call dangerous. Once again, turning the page. You are at home with your wife. You are at home with your girlfriend. You're at home with a woman, period, end of story. And she wants you out of the house for whatever reason. All she has to do is pick up the phone and call the police and say that she is being abused, or the man that is at the house is hurting her, or she's in fear for her life. Those police officers are going to rush to that house For and 30 seconds later, they're knocking at the door and they're going to be asking a million questions. And I guarantee you that if they don't make amends almost immediately, that he is going down, meaning that he is going to be asked to leave the house and not return until the next morning, or he will be getting arrested based upon what she says happened. How is that fair? Look, in the United States of America, we've got all kinds of problems. We know it, and we're thankful we got the right people in office that are pushing the train down the tracks to readjust and bring everything into motion. But when I actually hear things such as this on a personal level with what men go through, right? With what men truly go through and the strategy, here it is. Listen to me carefully. This is what you're not gonna be told. This is what's not gonna be discussed, is that one-on-one meeting with her and her attorney. Do you want to know how they strategize against a man? It's mind-blowing. It should be illegal. It should be a criminal act if an attorney actually tells a client to do said things. But you can never ask. You want to know why, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, does anybody out there know why? It's called the attorney-client privilege, which I think is complete bullshit across the board. But the attorney-client privilege means that whatever is actually stated between you and your attorney is just and only between you and your attorney. Now, how fair is that? Let's actually recap and come up with a scenario here. I am an attorney, and I have got this young lady in my office, and this young lady is crying, and she's putting on a show, and she's acting, and she's saying, I need to get him out of the house. I need to get him out of the house. How can I do it? Well, if I'm a lawyer and I'm trying to represent my client behind closed doors, and there's extenuating circumstances, I know that. Well, you could call the police and tell the police that he's being abusive and he's being harmful and he's hurting you and he's threatening you. That's the one way that you could get him out of the house, but don't tell anybody I told you that. Don't tell anybody that I told you that, because I'll deny it. This is attorney-client privilege. Nobody has to know we had this conversation. The strategizing, the weaponization of a system against a man is insanity. And for those men out there who have been through this, for those men out there who have experienced this, they know exactly what I am talking about. They know exactly what this really, really means. And for most men in the United States, I sure hope that you do not have to go through something of this magnitude where you actually have to fight to get your child back, or fight in both cases, whether it's a false DCFS claim or it's a false domestic abuse claim. In both cases, it's always the man who actually has to get their children back. It's always the man who has to continue to fight, which means money, which put the money on the table and fight and fight and fight and fight to get your kids back, because you love your children, but you always have to be the one climbing that mountain, don't you? You always have to be the one that's actually in front of the crowd, and you have to get that crowd to believe that you are not a bad guy. Guess what? You're not a bad guy. You're not a bad guy. And this shit with the weaponization of all this crap that I hear that goes on in this country, just and only to position to make sure that the man is out of the house so he can't see this or he can't see that. Folks, look, back up, okay? Do you know that if a man is removed from your home, and it's done right, and she files a restraining order strategically, files a restraining order while she knows you're a great dad, your kids know you're a great dad, do you realize that he's got to stay away from his children? He's got to stay away from his children for a minimum of 30 days until that next hearing actually comes up, which if she's successful at getting a no contact order, guess what that means, ladies and gentlemen? He can't talk to his kids. He can't call his kids. He can't text his kids. Even if his kids text him, he cannot respond back. Stop. Think about this for a second. Think about being a dad, okay? And think about your kids being removed from your house, all by design, all wrapped around the word bullshit, and you cannot speak to your children. You cannot even respond. Do you realize the level of hurt and pain that would cause a man? Because the woman who actually did it to you, she knows. And she's doing it on purpose because she wants to actually get to some sort of settlement conclusion to use the kids against you to actually position to put herself in a better state or a better position when she's going through the divorce procedures because she knows that you want to see your children. It's a weapon. It is a weapon. They are weaponizing the system to put you last. And for the real men of the United States of America, this shit has to stop. No question about it. In fact, I'll go a step further. There probably should be some sort of law that states that if there is an open DCFS claim and or if there is a false accusation of domestic violence against a spouse where the sheriff removes the man from the house, there should be mandatory jail time if it's actually proven to be false, DCFS side, unfounded, or undecided. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a huge step back here. I'm trying to be objective. Again, I'm trying to be very objective. There are instances where a spouse is getting to arguments and you know there's violence. Yes, he's got to go. Yes, she's got to go. There are absolutely cases where children are being abused. Absolutely, he, she, they, all of them need to go, and you need to protect the youth of the United States of America. But for those people that use those two buckets as a way to weaponize against a man and or a woman, there should be a mandatory prison sentence regarding that, because how low can you go? How low can you actually put yourself in and make yourself go? It doesn't make any sense to me. This man that I'm referencing was in tears, and the tears were tears of joy. I'm staring at this man's face as my heart is dropping, and he said, 4 years. 4 years. I mean, I actually had to repeat it to him. 4 years? 4 years? You didn't get to see your daughter? You didn't get to call your daughter, talk to your daughter? Shaking his head. Nope. Wasn't able to do it. And they found him to be 100% fine. They found her to be false, fake, fraudulent, phony. They removed her rights and custody rights from her and gave him full custody. Now, there are millions of stories like this out there. Rather, there are hundreds of thousands of instances that float around there every single year. Could you imagine being the one being called on? Could you imagine that? I hear stories about guys that are in their house. They're sitting on their couch relaxing or maybe watching a football game, and she's angry. She's mad. She is pissed. She just has to make a simple phone call, and it's not to the pizza place. It is not to the pizza place, ladies and gentlemen. She's calling the police and she is saying, he's hurting me. Please help. Come in here and help. All by design. It's all garbage. It's all bullshit. And in the cases where they can prove it to be fake, false, and phony, an acting show, she needs to be arrested with a mandatory prison sentence of 1 year. How can you do that to another human being? I don't care how angry you get. If you are a husband and a wife and you've got children together and you make a fake, false DCFS claim, do you realize the magnitude of such claim? Do you realize that the DCFS agent has the right to pull those children away from both parents if they deem something is actually taking place? Or they have the right to actually pull those kids from you, put them in foster care until they figure out what is really going on. I'm sure they don't want to do that. I couldn't fathom being a DCFS agent. I can't even imagine that. And quite frankly, I couldn't even imagine being a police officer going to a domestic violence call and trying to decipher between who's right, who's wrong, what's real, what's not, and what do I do? But it does bother me, ladies and gentlemen, because it just seems Like the man is always the one hitting the road, Jack. He's always the one. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And what else doesn't matter too is nobody cares where he goes. Nobody cares. Sometimes he gets arrested, goes to jail. When he gets out, he can't go back to his house. He can't get access to his car. He can't get access to his clothes. He can't talk to his kids. Seriously, imagine getting arrested, going to jail for a made up, phony, false accusation, getting out of jail, simultaneously learning that you have a restraining order put against you for a fake false reason, okay? And that you have to wait 30 days to get in front of a judge. You can't contact your spouse, your children. You can't go to your home. You can't get clothes, toothbrush, toothpaste, work clothes, computer, cell phone, anything. Because it happens, and it happens more than you know. The weaponization of these systems are unbelievable. And there always seems to be a scenario where it's against a man. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to tell me your stories. I want you to actually explain to me if you've been through such a situation. And I'm not putting down women. I am not. I am disgusted with some of these stories that I'm hearing. But probably more so than not, it's the man, again, leaving the dwelling for whatever reason. I want you out there to tell me if you agree or disagree. I would really appreciate your response. DCFS, fake, phony, false claims just to hurt and harm a man? Or a fake domestic abuse call to get a man out of your house, all done by design to strategize, to position, to put yourself in a better spot while you don't care about him seeing his children. It's got to stop. It has to stop across the board in the United States of America.